Good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing? Awesome. Was that freaking awesome, or was that just awesome? Freaking awesome. All right, I loved Stephen's exercises, so everybody stand up. We're going to try this. All right, if this morning you said that you don't read my newsletters, please sit down. Oh, well, I'm just kidding. Just sit down. This morning, 497 out of 500 didn't read them, but everybody reads them now. I'm just kidding. I don't read them either. Well, I don't read other people's newsletters. So what do you think so far? So this morning, we've heard a lot of amazing things, haven't we? Tim Hebert has shared with us some concepts about Atrion's impact model and how to achieve amazing outcomes. And he shared a poll that everyone actually live took, and that was pretty astounding, right? It showed us that everyone believes, for the most part, that our roles are going to be changing in the next decade or so in a pretty major way. And that was astounding. That blew me away. And Tim talked about the concept of perspective and having the right perspective on things. And Dan Pink led us in a talk about motivation and how to motivate teams. And we led into the afternoon some amazing stories of technology and how it's made a difference in the world. I thought that was unbelievable as well. And then we had Dave Ramsden shared an incredible story about kissing and about an amazing story that he created this huge differentiation at Atrion to improve customer relationships within our organization and to improve the way that our company can grow and to help stimulate growth within the organization that directly aligned with our CEO. You heard Tim talk about his viewpoint from a CEO's perspective this morning, and that completely aligned. So that was a great takeaway as well. And certainly we heard Stephen share some amazing things about innovation. And so if we were able to take all of what we've learned today and we bundled it with all of our experiences and our knowledge that you all have in the room and put that all together and looked forward to the next decade as to how all of our roles are going to continue to change, how could we market that? How could we market that internally within our organizations? Simulating Dave's story a bit. How do you intentionally do that and market that and bundle that together? And the first thing about marketing, if you think about marketing yourself internally within your organizations, the first thing that we have to think about as we think about marketing is we have to think about brand. Brand is the first word that comes to mind. And knowing your brand. If you're going to talk about the concepts of brand, you first need to begin to imagine that you are a brand. Right? That would be the first step. And instead of viewing ourselves as roles or as leaders within our organization in a certain area, what if we could imagine ourselves instead as a personal brand within the organization? What kind of impact could we have? What kind of positive outcomes could we realize? And what would that look like? So if we were to do that, what would it look like and what would be different? How would we function differently? And so let's explore this concept of personal brand in a model that we're all really familiar with, and that's family. Meet the parents. Parent A and B, if you will. This is Mo and Dee. This is my mom and dad. Mo stands for Maurice, D for Dolores. And they've been married for 55 years. Can we just give my parents a round of applause for 55 years? They maintained custody of us all through the entire time. And 4 children, I'm the third in line, and 7 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren. And, you know, if I think of my parents, just in a single word, in a single brand word, it would be family. That's their brand. Mo, Dee, family. And they may not think of it that way. They don't think of themselves as a brand, certainly, but that is what it is, right? And I'm sure all of us have Mo and Dees in our families, right, that represent that brand of family within our family units. And My dad, he's the teacher of everything, the hands-on teacher. He taught us everything to do with our hands. My mom, she's the adventurous one. She's the one, the risk taker. She's the one that would go off and keep the family unit close together, but she'd leap out, on the edge a little bit and keep us on our toes. And so these experiences that they've created for us, they just kept our family connected and kept my parents representing that term, brand of family. And they're both lovers of music. Chris mentioned my interest in music. I got that from my parents. I learned that through the experiences that they created for us. And my parents, they love games, card games. We're French-Canadian. Apparently those two things go together. And the game that they loved the most, dominoes. Yeah, dominoes. How many families are into the playing of dominoes or have played them before? A few of you? Oh, all right, a few domino players. So it's a cool game, right? And it creates this moment where I think we probably talk and laugh more than we necessarily play the game dominoes, but it creates this experience where we're together and we're playing this game, and it all centers around this game. And these experiences that my parents have created over the years with us have shaped our beliefs. They've shaped my beliefs. They shape my behaviors. They shape my perception of my parents and their brand, family. So much so that has anyone ever caught themselves, you say something and then you say, oh my God, I just sounded like my father. Or I just sounded like my mother. My wife will actually say it. She goes, you just sounded like your father. And that's cool though, isn't it, right? These experiences are so strong that what they begin to do, they shape our beliefs so strongly that we begin actually behaving like our parents sometimes. And sometimes that's good. Sometimes it might not be so good, but overall it's great, right? That's what happens. And that's what happens when a brand is strong and experiences are strong, and it begins to shape our beliefs and our behaviors. Whether it's at home or whether it's in the work environment, what your brand is it's a unique promise of value. So for my parents, it's a promise of value and family. For us in our work environments, it's still a promise of value. We have something unique to offer into our organizations, and it's a promise of value that we are lending. Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon.com, said it really candidly when he said, your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And it's true, isn't it? It's what they say about us when we're not in the room. And it's true because in reality what that is it's just people's beliefs. It's their perceptions of who we are. It's their perceptions of our brand. And sometimes it's not as forthcoming. It may not just come out and be straight out there. Sometimes it is said when we're not in the room, kind of like newsletters, except sometimes you're in the room. So perception, this concept of perception, this sits really at the heart of everything. If we're to change or shape the perceptions or beliefs of what people say about us when we're not in the room, which is basically the viewpoint of our brand, and if we were to know that, and we could begin to imagine ourselves as a brand, we'd then begin to be able to market our brand internally and create change and create impact and make a difference, similar to many of the stories that you've heard today. So perception, we've heard the phrases, perception is everything, right? Perception is reality. And perception is reality is really what that's saying is it's their perception or our perception is our reality or their reality. And it is, it's true. For the one perceiving, it is their reality. Sometimes it seems unfair to the one being perceived, but that's the reality. And what perception is founded in is it's founded in three things. It's founded in what people see, what people think, and what people hear. Three things: what they see, what they think, and what they hear. All of those things that I saw and thought and heard over the years about my brand family that my parents created were really, really strong. And if they're strong in our work environments, keep doing it. Keep having those experiences. Keep strengthening that. And if they need work, then there's areas that you can focus on to solve that and to fix that. So don't worry about that. But if we're going to shape these perceptions, we do need to focus on these three major areas. They're basically human behavior, been around for 1,000 years, nothing new. What do people see? What do people think? What do people hear? So let's tie this back in an analogy, back to dominoes again. My parents will love this, by the way. In the game dominoes, they're played flat, right? You take these pieces and you lay them flat around a table and you match them up. But someone one day thought very imaginatively that if you took one and you stood it on its side, and then you took another one and stood it right next to it, about an inch apart, and you did that again, and really you could do that for thousands in a row, that what would happen is if you put a small amount of movement, just a little nudge on the first one, that it would create energy. And the first domino would hit the second one, which would hit the third one, and so forth and so on. And we've seen these, right? Thousands of dominoes. People make patterns out of them today, and something really cool happens at the end. Well, what is that called? That's commonly known today as the domino effect. And the concept is, if just you start this one little movement, a small amount of effort, that it begins to create energy that creates momentum. And so the domino effect around this concept of perceptions is a key point to bring up, and the power of creating a domino effect is essential. So what I'd like to do is take you to, if we were to select 3 dominoes out of a box, 3 numbers, and apply them to this concept of a little bit of movement and creating a domino effect, the 3 that I would pick would be the domino 3, the domino 7, and the 11. 3, 7, and 11. Everybody has notepads, right? Could you do me a favor, just write 3, 7, and 11 on your notepad. Doesn't matter which way you do it. Rip off that piece of paper after you've written that, and fold it in half again, and just put it in your pocket. Put it in a pants pocket, jacket pocket, wallet, pocketbook, anywhere that you're going to come across this thing again in the next day or two, just as a reminder of 3, 7, 11. Everybody good with that? So these 3 areas, let's walk through these just a little bit at a high level. They stand for these 3 areas of perception where people see things, think things, and hear things. And let's walk through them one at a time. The first one in the see it category is that in just 3 seconds, we are judged by our appearance. And so 3 seconds, 1, 2, 3, that's it. I mean, that's a short amount of time, isn't it? And appearance just doesn't mean the physical appearance, right? That's part of it. And certainly as we explore what roles that we're going to take on in the next decade or so, it's important to look the part, look the role that we desire. So it is part of it. We can't dismiss it. But it's one part of it. The rest of it, it's all nonverbal stuff. It's what we appear to be, right? The shortened word for appearance is appear. So it's how are we appearing to others? What does our facial expressions look like? What is our body language telling those around us when we begin to engage in a meeting or begin to engage in conversation about some new idea? Princeton did a study where they actually said that in 1/10 of a second, our facial expression actually lends to someone judging us by our appearance. 1/10 of a second just by our facial expressions alone. And so within 3 seconds, we're already judged by our appearance. It's pretty astounding. And how we appear should be instantaneous. What's the one word that comes to mind when you see this logo? Safety. Everybody said it, right? Almost 400 people simultaneously say the same word, safety. And it's because Volvo over the years has done such an amazing job at creating experiences to shape our beliefs that we all believe very strongly that Volvo equals safety. And it even shapes our behaviors as well. If I had a young family and I was looking to purchase a vehicle and safety was important to me, I guarantee you Volvo would be in my top 3. Agreed? And most, if you really thought it was safety was your top pick, you'd probably be driving a Volvo. So safety and this concept of a one-word association in a brand is really important. My parents' brand, Mo and D, family. Volvo, safety. So what is our word? You know, as we begin to understand or imagine ourselves as a brand, what would our one word be? And could someone within our organizations answer that as swiftly as we just did with the Volvo example? That's what we want to create. We want to be able to create those experiences just like Volvo did to allow us to have a very, very strong brand, so strong that it can be identified with one word.